calling to order the regular meeting of the River Falls Board of Education. This meeting has been properly notified, and we are going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do not have any visitors or delegations who have signed up to address the board this evening, so we are going to move right into informational items. And the first one is a Wildcat Pride Award. Oh.
All right. So we have a Wildcat Pride Certificate. I don't know, what's the best, where's the camera right there? I'll try to get it. Proudly presented to Mark Tomlinson. Come on, Mark.
That's me.
I might be able to do this without glasses, but I don't want to mess it up. So.
I'm Mark.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Paul Herstein.
Nice to meet you.
Mark, you are a pillar in our community education program. In fact, I believe you are the very first River Falls community education instructor joining our program in 2011. You exemplify the traits we value most in our instructors. You're welcoming, knowledgeable, and connect our community with passion, patience, and skill. Thank you, Mark, for demonstrating passion, kindness, and dedication, not only to the River Falls community education, but our entire community. You are a true ambassador of Wildcat Pride. Thank you very much.
Is your mom
Somebody who knows you
later?
Knowledge.
I do want to add a couple statistics. So I spent a little time and found some statistics behind the classes that he has taught. So he has taught 59 different Tai Chi classes.
Wow.
He's met a total of 614 times over the years, and 512 students have taken his class.
Wow.
So I reached out to a few of your students for some comments on you. I'm not sure I'm going to say it right, but one student said that you live Tai Chi. You don't just teach it, you live it. And that you like to share that when you drive to Chicago, you stop for your, is it a Qigong?
Qigong.
Qigong, it stops, which is a breathing,
Yep.
right? Breathing exercise. You stop on the way, so he actually exemplifies living it. Also, your students said that you like to talk about your instructor who taught you Tai Chi, who was 40 and given a terminal diagnosis
Yeah.
for cancer and lived to be 102.
Wow.
And then apparently you say you're 120, you tell your class?
179.
The truth is, he's 79.
Yeah.
And then I have a quote from a student that said, Mark is quite a dedicated and skillful teacher. It's a lot of fun to learn from him. He's very generous with his time.
Aww. You know, when we started the community education program, we really hoped that it would make a difference in the lives of people in River Falls. And it's because of you, Mark, and people like you that that's come to fruition. So thank you very, very much. And thank you for being here this evening.
Thanks
You
for the
are
honor.
welcome to stay tonight. It also isn't rude if you would rather leave. So- And it is beautiful out. Yes. Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to some reports. And the first report that we have is from our student representatives. So Jada and Ben.
Hi, I'm Jada Redenzel. I'm a senior at River Falls High School, and I'd like to share an update on the amazing community service work happening through our WIN programs and student council. As a part of WIN, each class selects a community service project that they feel passionate about and spends 2 class blocks giving back to the community. These projects range from helping local food pantries and animal shelters to organizing clothing drives or writing cards for nursing home residents. WIN service gives students the chance to make a real difference while also teaching teamwork and leadership and empathy. In addition to WIN service, our student council recently led a diaper drive during homecoming week. We collected diapers and wipes for families who can't afford them, and the response from students and staff was incredible. It was really inspiring to see our school come together for such an important cause. As we move into the holiday season, Student Council is now preparing for our Giving Tree project. This program allows students and staff to donate gifts or money to buy presents for local children in need. It's a great way to spread kindness and make sure every child in our community feels cared for during the holidays. Overall, these programs show how much our students care about helping others.
I'm Ben Jekyll. I'm also a senior at River Falls High School, and I'm just going to give a little status update on the state of the activities of the schools and how things are going. Obviously, we're coming to the end of the first term of the high school, and things are going well. Teachers are in high spirits, students are in high spirits, at least to the student perspective, you know. And, our activities are doing extremely well. Our football team advanced on. They're playing Lacrosse Central next week, and then hopefully to advance on the weeks after that. I believe volleyball is playing New Richmond, right? And then so is soccer. So, and there's a possibility that the football team will play New Richmond in the next week. So you could say the road to glory runs through New Richmond. But, hoping all success towards that. A bunch of activities have started to start up. Mock trial is starting. The marching band won their 26th state championship 2 weeks ago. They're like 6th in a row. We just finished a trip to Indianapolis over the weekend where we competed at the BOA Super Regional at Lucas Oil Stadium, and that was absolutely phenomenal, a good experience for everyone. And the musical is going great. Everything's going good at the high school. I drive past the elementary schools every day, and I see the kids outside, and they always look like they're having fun. So, everything seems to be going good at the schools around the district. So, that's your status update, brought to you by Ben Jekyll. So.
All right. Well, we like that kind of an update. Thanks to both of you. You've each given us important information. So thank you. All right, we are going to move on then to administrative reports, and we have an elementary school goal update. So, elementary principals.
Good job. Hi, everyone. This is year 2 of our wildly important goals, so we're trying to keep things concise because we know the agenda is long, and provide you some updates on kind of our next steps that we're using as a team, both collaboratively between the 4 of us, but also within our buildings this year. So our goal has stayed the same. The only adjustment is that last year we used FastBridge for grades 4 and 5. This year we've moved to Ames Web for grades K through 5. So you'll see, I think the language shifted just a little bit because it's just grade level screener, not specific between the 2 of them. So this continues to be a goal for a lot of reasons. We'll talk more about the specific steps that we're taking, but transparent classroom and collaborative literacy are both in year 2 of implementation, which means while things feel better, we're still not at a point where we're necessarily even in refinement. We're still in implementation. We're working on getting the kinks out, getting on the same page, and moving forward with that really cohesive, guaranteed, and viable for all of our students. And so our goal stays the same, but our action steps have tweaked and changed throughout that second year of implementation.
And for people who are watching on TV and for our new members, could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll start.
I'm Kai Rogers. Where are the cameras? Hi. I'm the principal at River Falls Public Montessori.
Yes, Rachel Mader, West Side Elementary Principal.
Ashley Dingenheimer, Rocky Branch Elementary.
Kate Greenwood.
All right. So before we get into our fall data, these are our lead measures or our commitments this year that we're hoping will have an impact on our goal, which is our literacy focus goal. So the first one is continuation of top 10 tools in science-based reading instruction, PD, professional development for staff. All of the staff who were required to go through that training have completed it in cohorts, but we also want to loop in some of our paraprofessionals who support our literacy blocks and our upper grade teachers who maybe didn't go through that training but obviously also teach literacy to students. So that's a focus this year. We also want to monitor our collective commitments, so academic services, work with our coaches and teachers to develop specific commitments related to our literacy instruction and collaborative literacy that are kind of our like fidelity checkpoints. So we've created a walkthrough system using Google Forms where we plan to just kind of check in, gather some data on what we're seeing in the classroom, and then use that to be able to respond to what we're seeing through either teacher training or work with coaches to make sure that those commitments are being met K-5 at all of our buildings.
I think the same, sorry to interrupt, too, is true of the Montessori, not to speak for Kai, but again, kind of having that cadence of accountability in all of our buildings to say what are the actual action steps that we're taking. So while that looks different with kind of an implementation walkthrough form for collaborative literacy, transparent classroom is kind of mimicking that same type of structure at the Montessori.
Yes. The next one is an emphasis on data literacy with Ames Web Plus. So like Rachel mentioned, we were kind of living between two systems last year. This year we can really focus on Ames Web Plus and for ourselves learn about which reports are most useful and then help teachers utilize those reports. And then with NextPath being our new data warehouse, also just like bridging that and what's useful and what can report between the two so that we feel like our data digs are really intentional and purposeful, and then we can respond to that with our instruction as well. And then lastly, we had a really strong system last year with Act 20 for how we communicate with parents, what interventions are taking place, and like a good system for parents acknowledging those interventions in our system. And so we're just expanding that in our upper grades as well. So it won't look exactly the same, but now that we kind of have that system in place, we can roll it up and just keep that consistent for families as well.
All right, so we tested in the fall this year, which we did not do last year. So last year, Ames Web had just been communicated / approved / mandated for Act 20 for all school districts to use as their screening tool. And so we were also implementing a new reading curriculum. So we did not test in the fall and said we were going to wait until the winter. So this is our fall data this year. And as you can see, the numbers are quite high in the 90s and in almost all grade levels. Which is an interesting thing compared to last spring. And so a couple of things to take into consideration when looking at those numbers. One, we didn't test last fall, so we actually have nothing to compare it to from last fall. Two, Ames Web actually did their renorming process, and that is, they take all of their tens of thousands of scores over the last 7 to 10 years and they renorm them nationally. So this is not a change that the state made. This is not a change that River Falls School District made. The state still requires that this measures students that are below the 25th percentile. That 25th percentile number has changed from Ames Web. And so our numbers from last year, it's pretty hard to compare. So this is kind of our baseline as to where we're starting. The other thing to take into consideration is this year, with our fall testing, we actually did it towards the end of the required window. So Act 20 requires that we complete testing within the first 45 days of the school year. And so we pushed that to the very end of that 45 days so that we could get in an entire round of intervention first. So students that were in an intervention last spring, we were able to provide them additional reading support right away in the first week of school, so that we weren't sitting around waiting for testing data. So all of our students had a little bit of a warm-up before they did that screening, which is we've not done previously. So just some considerations to think about when we look at our data for this year. We will continue to look at this data. We are already continuing to look. We have progress monitoring data. So any students who are not in this, who, for example, the 3% of kindergartners that did not meet this standard are being progress monitored every week. So we're doing a progress monitoring probe for them, would be letter names and letter sounds, every week to see where they're at and are they keeping in that trajectory to be proficient in the winter and then again in the spring. And actually, because the numbers are where they are, we're actually looking at almost all the way up to the 40th percentile, depending on the grade level and how many kids we have to track. So we're definitely not resting on the fact that the 25th percentile is good to go. We're absolutely focusing on kids who may need additional supports outside of that 25th percentile. So,
when you say 25th percentile, so that's proficient, or what? Can you explain that?
So that's the threshold for Act 20. So any student below the 25th percentile requires a reading plan through Act 20.
And the 25th percentile is all the kids who took the test.
Yep.
The 25% that did the lowest.
So it's not based on our own percentile.
No,
this is a nationwide.
Nationwide. So
Yep.
nationwide,
Correct.
the lowest quarter.
Correct.
If we're above the lowest quarter, we're proficient.
We're not at
According to
high
Act
risk.
20, but
According
that's
to Act
conversation that we've had really collaboratively as a team, is saying that a student at the 26th percentile is proficient doesn't feel super great for us. So that's how Kate talked about going up to the 40th percentile with support, hoping to even get higher than that, the more that we kind of minimize that achievement gap. Our recognition has been that, like, yes, they don't need a reading plan, and are we really saying they're a proficient reader? We don't necessarily think so. So that's why we're still trying to add layers of support, whether that be with a reading plan or a tier 3 intervention like reading intervention with a title reading teacher, but we also have things like reading core or support with paraprofessionals that we're adding in for those students who aren't at that threshold, just because we want to ensure that we're still working towards proficiency even though they've met that benchmark.
And if they're on a reading plan or an intervention and they get above the 25th, we don't take that intervention away until we feel like the student has truly graduated out of the need for it. But just because they reach that 25th percentile, we still continue our supports as needed until they.
But percentiles are kind of dangerous because the lower the overall scores go across the nation, the lower the bar goes. I mean, it could be an ever decreasing bar. Right? So do we have other methods of testing the kids that we know, like how are you actually doing?
The forward test at the end of the year, which is grades 3 through 5.
I would say another piece though, at least for our 3 buildings, Montessori does things a little different, but one of the things that our ELA committee has done this year is to look through the collaborative literacy resource to say what are common assessments that we're using district-wide to ensure that we have a strong understanding of what student proficiency looks like at those grade levels outside of this benchmark screener. So while we don't necessarily have the unit summative tests that you may see in other curricular resources, we're still ensuring that there's some level of commonality for that guaranteed and viable to say, well, all students in 3rd grade have shown us how they do on an assessment around theme and a story. So that way that we still have other marks to compare, and then we have time set up throughout the year that we've put in placeholders so that our teams can have conversations district-wide about what they're seeing in those assessments and the instructional moves that they're making.
It'll be interesting to see what the teachers think, how this goes.
Yeah, and like last spring, for example, at Greenwood in my 3rd grade, I had 9 students who were on a reading plan based on the 25th percentile for oral reading fluency that actually passed the forward test. So they got a passing score on the forward test, but they were in the lower 25th percentile needing a reading plan. So it all just kind of depends on the type of test and how they take it and whatnot. So we're definitely looking at lots of pieces of data and having.
Or maybe those interventions help them pass the forward test, the forward test in the spring. Interesting.
It's, the proficient is an interesting word that we use in this because I think it gets, you understand it, I mean, we kind of understand it. But generally when this gets out in the community and press and all kinds of things, people hear these things that 40%, 50%, whatever, meet proficiency, the rest don't, translates into half of our students can't read often. And I think so it's important for us to remember that that's a benchmark, that's a marker out there, but it doesn't necessarily mean our students can't read. It's, we want them proficient in reading, which is a higher standard than just being able to read. I think I'm kind of stating the obvious here, but I'd like to get that out there so that people don't misinterpret that. And that shouldn't be lost on anybody. We're not satisfied with where it is. We want to improve. That's been a goal. It's been a major thing for us as a board and us as a district is literacy, reading, this transition to science of reading, all that. So, which is great. Which was a question I was going to have. So the faculty are going through, teachers are going through professional development to learn the science of reading, the techniques and all that sort of stuff. Is that going well? Are you getting the teachers working into this well? Do you see any bumps in this? Anything we should be aware of or concerned about? Teachers adopting this?
I think the good news is the training that teachers did last year, I think, was organized in a way that it was applicable, and because we gave some people voice and choice in how they did that, they found a time to do it in a way they had the highest level of capacity. I think that the other perk is that we chose a resource like collaborative literacy that utilizes the methods of science of reading. So it's not like they're getting this training and then having pushback from the resource we selected. That's not happening. I think the biggest thing I can say that I've seen at Westside is just, it's hard to get out of our default practices. I don't think it's an unwilling list. I don't think it's that people don't want to or that they're not trying. It's just that that takes time and energy and resources. And so I think that continues to be a goal of all of ours as well, is how do we provide time for those collaborative conversations for people to move out of that default and into what we know is best practice, because while they want to at their core, there's always kind of competing priorities for them to do that. So I don't think I would say in my building, at least, there was resistance towards the training or towards the new learning, but more how we take that learning and put it into practice is where we've run into.
Yeah, and I think that's where our lead measure came from, is that it's easy to like learn that and then move on. And so our thought just being like, even if it's just little tidbits or little reminders or things that we're reinforcing that teachers are doing or highlighting, is just a way to keep it at the forefront of people's mind, and when they're ready throughout the year to kind of take those incremental steps to continue moving that in and improving.
I always appreciate when you guys are in front of us, because we learn so much from you, but this really is about leadership, I think, and building leadership is kind of what gets us there, and monitoring it. So one of my takeaways from this is that with all we're doing, and this is an initial measure for us, we'll know more when the forward exams come out.
Yeah, right.
With the understanding that standardized tests aren't the be-all and end-all, and it's not that our kids can't read, but we're trying to make them as proficient as possible with this different approach, science of reading, and the forward exams will help us with that. I understand that, so anyway.
Can you explain the reason why you suspect oral reading fluency was chosen as the screener? Like, is there, I don't want to open up a can of worms, but I'm curious, like, is there research and evidence there that is a good indicator of a student's overall ability to read and comprehend and?
There is correlation between
Yes.
fluency and comprehension.
Yeah.
So a child may struggle with comprehension if they're not fluent. Is it 100%? No, it's a correlation, not a causation.
Yeah.
I feel like those terms have been around a lot lately. So you see a correlation between that. I don't know the numbers on it, but I do know that over time that's been something we've been focusing on. Do you ladies have any other comments on why that might be?
Probably going back 10, 15 years when Dibbles was a thrown around for a while, and Ames Webb kind of took on the scene as well. I mean, I think Kate explained it. It was shown that kids who are fluent typically then have the cognitive space then to attend to reading comprehension. So it's not 100%. We have what's called word callers who are able to decode quickly and read quickly that aren't attending to comprehension. But that's why we have other measures in place to try to catch those kids. And we also have students who, like Kate mentioned, aren't fluent, but are thinkers and are thinking deeply. They might have other processes that are slowing them down. So that's why it's important to keep the big picture in mind. But in general, it can give us a good big picture indicator that students are proceeding the way we'd expect them to.
And they did adjust last year for first grade. It was just based on fluency, and this year now it's a composite score that triggers the reading plan. And I think our teachers appreciated that also, just where they come in at first grade and where they leave first grade is really different. But I think this will be a more accurate measure of their overall reading ability. So
I think we're continuing to monitor when does the fluency become the problem and when is it not, right? Because I think our 4th and 5th grade teachers, conversations I've had with those teams this year is like, that is important, and so is understanding the text, right? Like they're not mutually exclusive. So I think it really comes down to one of the perks of Act 20 has given us the toolkit to have more diagnostic assessment. So recognizing, is this a barrier for those students, or is this, they may just be a slower reader. We're going to keep supporting them in that, and it's not the end all be all for that kid. So I think that's another piece of this, that as we continue to support 4th and 5th grade, because they don't have the same Act 20 implications, but having us have fuller, better pictures of students when they leave 3rd grade of what their reading needs are, I think is only going to help us in understanding that this is one data point for them, but when we look at a comprehensive view of who they are as a reader, I think we're getting more and more information to kind of put those puzzle pieces together too.
All right, my turn. So lots happened over the last year. So to celebrate a few things from last year, as we reflected, and we did a lot of reflection over the summer, and we continue to do that, with us as well as with Amy Wise. And really overall, the rollout of our personal reading plans was successful last year, and it was a heavy lift for teachers, it was a heavy lift for coaches, but at the end of the day, they went out well, and I think teachers felt really good about it in the winter, even better about it in the spring, because they kind of felt like they understood it a lot better and were supported along the way. So that was great. We did make instructional decisions without that fall data point, which was, I think, a whirlwind for all of us to kind of get our heads around that and what that actually meant for students. But I think overall, as we kind of collaborated and with coaches, that worked to our advantage for students. Also, you know, that top 10 tools training that we were talking about is kind of wrapped up. We did some work last year at Montessori and with 4K with the Reading Center of Minnesota, and now the rest of the district is doing that as well, just for that and, right? I mean, the top 10 tools gave a really solid base in the science of reading, but like we say, as part of our overall plan is that professional development needs to continue. So really happy that we got that part kind of checked off, but now that's just like the springboard for more. Also, wildly enough, even though it was a very heavy lift, there was just really, really a positive mindset towards student growth and student support and student need, and really using data as that center to talk about, which I feel like in every building, our PLC time kind of really, really took a strong focus to really look at numbers and data and what children need to be successful. And so, and classroom teachers really got involved in that, you know, at their level and really used what they had. I know at Montessori, we really spent the year exploring lessons that maybe that had gone by the wayside over time, that we were really trying to kind of make sure that teachers knew what they were teaching and why, and using Transparent Classroom as that platform of, well, my students are all here, where are yours? And having those conversations. So it looks a little bit different, but overall, teachers, I think, were really happy with that structure last year. So with every new change, like Rachel said, it's still being rolled out in year 2. We don't feel done. We don't even feel like we're refining. We're just still getting things going. I think so we have obstacles, obviously, and they're not obstacles that are barriers. They're more like things that we just need to keep working on and keep refining in our own minds, and working with Amy to kind of put all of that together to be able to roll out to staff. One of them is really Ames Web Plus itself, and just the way that you can use that data. We all figured out FastBridge really, really easily, and it was intuitive, and it was really easy to use, and teachers found it intuitive. Ames Web Plus isn't quite the same, so we're just still kind of all digging to figure out how to best utilize and how to be efficient about it, because yes, I can find the data that anybody is looking for or that I'm looking for, it just may take a lot longer right now. So just kind of working with teams, and when somebody finds something, it's exciting, and I'm sure that will continue to happen throughout the year. Also, as we spoke kind of a lot about the readjusted norms, the national norms, that was kind of a big deal because our scores looked fantastic. And if you really dig deep underneath the percentiles and you go to the cut scores of what makes up those percentiles, you will see, especially in those younger grades, that they actually have to double their cut score by the winter screener dates. So it's a really strong uphill right now. So as much as teachers celebrated the first round of testing and not many reading plans and everybody was excited about numbers, it was kind of that immediate, like, okay, but now we got to get to work. And I think that there was that that motivation to kind of keep the scores where they are. Whether that can happen or not, you know, we'll see how it all shakes out. But really, at the end of the day, that was a big shift from last year for us, and kind of rightfully so, because everybody worked so hard last year. It was kind of nice to see for them. Also, so the personal reading plans, we shifted tools over the summer to develop them. They're all online now. They go home in a portal, and that's a whole thing that we're still figuring out with parents as well, because they have to access their portal and find things and, accept the reading plan and all of that. So there's just a little bit of, what would you call it? Learning process for everybody on both ends, right? So here we kind of taught our teachers one way of getting reading plans home last year, and we're like, nope, pause on that, now we're doing this. And so just another year of brand new, trying to get everybody up to speed. But it actually went quite smoothly in most buildings. Mine maybe was the exception, but we're getting there. So, and the new data warehouse that goes along with that in NextPath, which has been fantastic, and teachers are really enjoying kind of having the chance to dig in there, because they're able to look at things from previous years and just really look at trends. So that's been a lift, but maybe one that will be a short lift, and now we're there. Also, just still working on ways to measure growth. And as I said earlier, maybe AimsWeb Plus isn't quite as easy to determine kind of reports and classroom reports and school reports and grade reports and all of it, or individual student reports, but also just for us to kind of get our heads around what we're actually trying to measure when. So are we trying to figure out the growth from now until winter or now until spring? Is it a full year growth? Is it a 3-year growth? All of those questions that we just kind of keep going around and around and moving in a spiral forward. But it is just questions that are still out there. So. Yeah, so I think that's all we have. If we have any other questions.
Thank you.
Great.
Well, thank you very much for all of your work. All right, and now it is the superintendent's report.
Okay, so as Ben mentioned, I'm excited to report that the marching band are the 2025 class AAA state champions. That performance took place on Saturday, October 18th over at UW Whitewater. I had 27th. In 40 years.
I've lost track.
So now, yeah, I know, right? Good problem to have. But 27th over the past 40 years for a program, which is amazing. Wow. This year's show was titled Within, and they were recognized not only for best overall performance, but best color guard, percussion, visual performance, and musical presentation. So a clean sweep of all of the awards. So,
do we have anybody that was a member of a state championship band?
Yeah.
1985. I was in the first one, 1985.
That's right. Did you get to ride the fire truck?
I did not. We did not get that.
So what instrument will you be highlighting
I was
next month?
the band director claimed I was the worst trumpet player to actually ever make it all the way through high school band. I was not a practicer, let's just put it that.
Well, I think Ben plays trumpet.
Yeah.
He's much better than I am, I can guarantee it.
If you're interested, Ben could help you out. So we're going to take some time at the next meeting to recognize the directors and the drum majors. We've invited them to come. So
nice.
Wanted to make sure that we recognize it because it just happened, but also let people know we're going to do a recognition. So now to my report. So I'm thankful today to have an opportunity to highlight several impactful community donations that we've received over the past month. As you'll see, the district benefits from community members, businesses, and organizations that provide service and support. Felt appropriate to recognize these organizations since we had kind of run them. First one is Johnson Motors. So Johnson Motors out of New Richmond celebrated 100 days of giving because they have been in business for 100 years, and they presented us with a donation of $4,000. The donation was one of several that they provided to school districts and nonprofit organizations around Western Wisconsin. And we as an administrative team decided that we're going to use this donation to support student-led service projects within our community, hoping that Johnson Motors' example will inspire our students and staff to experience the rewards of serving others. So that's the first one. The second one that we're recognizing is the River Falls Lions Garden Tour. So our Garden Tour is an annual summer event sponsored by the River Falls Lions. It's an opportunity, if you're into it, to observe and interact with homes with great outdoor spaces. It's actually pretty neat if you're into that sort of thing. The contribution supports the district's ability to provide co-located mental health services to River Falls High School and Renaissance Charter Academy. The services are free of charge for students and their families, and it takes place right at the school. We're able to support 58 students last year through a total of 451 therapy sessions, and that impact's made possible by the donations from organizations like the River Falls Lions. We know that the garden tour requires a lot of planning and organization from many Lions members. I wanted to especially thank Carol Motez, who's really a powerhouse for this event. And I was able to accept the check at the last Lions meeting, which was awesome, and they donated $5,000 this year. Wanted to recognize American Legion Post 121. We want to extend our gratitude to them for a donation to our activities department. This is an annual contribution that they give, and it supports students, River Falls High School students or middle school students that might be facing barriers to being able to participate, and it allows them to get those barriers down and be able to participate. And that's facilitated by our activities department. I wanted to recognize the estate of Charles White. So this month we were notified of a $100,000 bequest from the estate of Mr. Charles White. The donation will be used to establish an annual scholarship awarded to an outstanding senior who demonstrates strong participation in forensics and other co-curricular activities. Mr. White was a 1945 graduate of River Falls High School. He later earned a law degree from UW-Madison. He was deeply involved in the River Falls community and participated in many service organizations. Although the future recipients will not have a chance to know Mr. White personally, I'm confident that they will come to appreciate his legacy of service and his commitment to expanding the educational opportunities for our students. Really awesome legacy. And that will be all facilitated through our scholarship program, which is a wonderful scholarship program that allows our students to, in a consolidated way, apply for many local scholarships. And then those students' applications then can go out, whether the service organization does the scholarship on their own or whether our local scholarship committee selects them. So it will be one of the larger ones, so we're really excited about that. I just wanted, I think I've talked about this quite a bit, but just one more. The School Forest Pavilion dedication. We celebrated on the 15th. It was an awesome opportunity. We had about 40 people or so out there. It was a beautiful night. We had Dale Jorgensen speak. He provided the context of how we were able to get to the space where that pavilion could be located and be accessible. We also celebrated the fact that over 1,000 students have visited the School Forest this fall alone. Wow. And taking from where we were just a few years ago where to get to the School Forest in and of itself was a pretty big adventure that would require more than what would be timely in a school day. And now we're able to get there quite a bit. So we're excited about that. Dale also spoke about the Johnson family, who was integral in facilitating, one of the families that was integral in facilitating the land swap that allowed us to be able to access that space. And I just wanted to recognize Lauren and Michaela. They're up there. They were key in kind of providing that history of where we've come with donations, and then not donations, but where we've come with participation and moving forward where we're going. So it was a really fun night. And then one final plug. We have our invite to our open house, which is next Tuesday, November 4th from 5 to 7 p.m. This is our facilities open house associated with our facilities project reaching what we'll call substantial completion. So attendees will have the opportunity to tour the new transportation center, which is at 805 West Locust, as well as review the updates at River Falls High School. One thing I wanted to kind of stress with this is over the last 18 months, pretty much all of our facilities have undergone construction, and those improvements have touched lots of different elements of the district. Safety, surveillance systems have been upgraded. We've improved our heating, ventilation, lighting, and electrical systems. We've remodeled bathrooms. We've improved sidewalks. We've enhanced tennis courts. So there's a lot of stuff that has happened, and it's not always easy to like showcase all of that. And so we've selected the two spaces that are the most visually available to kind of see as new spaces. But we just wanted to stress that even though we're showcasing the transportation center and the new multi-purpose area at the high school, there's a lot a lot of other elements that have taken place and a lot of other people that helped us get there. We're super excited to be able to showcase it, knowing that it wouldn't have been possible without the support of our community, and we hope that people are able to come out and check things out.
Good, thank you. All right, we are going to move on to action items, and the first portion of this is a consent agenda. So if anyone would like to discuss any of the items in numbers item 1 through 5, you should ask for it to be removed from the consent agenda. Anyone? All right, then before the board, we have minutes from the September 22nd regular school board meeting. We have bills that have been submitted for payment. We also have employment recommendations. We are going to be approving the second reading of the policies that are listed under item 4 and approve first readings of the policies that are listed under item 5. Is there a motion to approve all of those things in the consent agenda?
So,
thank you, Monica. Allison, you seconded? Yep. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. All right. So now, before us, we have 4 policies that the Ad hoc Policy Committee recommends that the board adopt for the first reading. We are going to go through them. David is going to highlight a few points. He'll highlight all of them, and then I will take a motion for all of them together.
Okay, so these were ones where we discussed at the ad hoc committee and had what I would say are pretty minor adjustments. So the first one is policy 1213, student supervision and welfare. The language update from the committee till now is on page 122, item J. I'm going to read the sentence that was adjusted. Administrators are expressly prohibited from posting any picture, video, meme, or other visual depiction of students on personal or unauthorized social networking, media, or similar forums. The discussion there was some other language around comments, and we had kind of wanted to clarify the scope of what the expectation is, not to confuse it with maybe crossover with where there would be other social media friend account type things. So I think that captured the goal there. So are there any questions on that? Okay, the next one is policy 1220, employment of the superintendent. On page 123 of your packet, this suggestion was to make sure that we don't box ourselves in from a licensure standpoint to candidates who maybe aren't initially licensed in the state of Wisconsin. So if you had a licensed superintendent from Minnesota or some other place who could obtain a license but didn't have it at the moment, we wanted to make sure that that person could at least be considered for the superintendency. So we added in the second paragraph who both meet or are able to obtain state and local qualifications. And that's the only adjustment that we made to that one. Any questions on that? All right, moving on to page 125, evaluation of the superintendent. We just did a few updates for clarification for the purpose of evaluation. In the first paragraph, in the second row, we added the term ensure accountability. Below that, the progress toward educational and strategic plan goals fit better with how we do evaluations here. Are there questions on that? All right, moving on to 127, which is superintendent job description. Under minimum qualifications, we updated in alignment with the prior update, have the ability to obtain. And then we also just made some updates to supervision. The superintendent supervises the Renaissance Charter Academy coordinator, and so we added that. And then we updated the word problems to challenges in number 5 of school board development. Keep the school board informed on matters such as district challenges. Questions on that? Okay. And then we have 1422, which is non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity, which is a monster of a policy. The update of all of it that we had was on page 132, which is the 4th page of the policy, and it's the 3rd paragraph down. I'm going to read the sentence that we adjusted, and then I'll explain how we adjusted it. All complaints must include the following information to the extent known: the identity of the respondent, a detailed description of their understanding of the facts upon which the complaint is based. that was the piece that we added. So a key component to this policy is making sure that through the process, there's an assumption of innocence, and that we look at the policy, or we look at the situation neutrally. And so it had said a description of the facts, and so we're worried that that might kind of lean towards, well, those are the facts, right? So we wanted to still have it in there, and so that was the update that we made to their understanding of the facts upon which the complaint is based.
You said that's on the page 4 of the policy.
Page 4 of the policy, 132 in the overall packet, third paragraph.
I don't do a packet.
I'm sorry. Well, 132, I mean, when I say packet, it could still be in your,
Okay.
does it not say 130?
Fourth page.
Good to know.
So if you go to.
Do you see it?
Complaint procedure, okay.
So the
Fourth page.
next
Okay.
paragraph, right?
Okay, got it.
We got it?
Yep, thank you.
I'll try to do both, so.
That's okay, I
Your
just,
print people and your,
I don't print.
there you go. Okay, so those are the 4. Or if
Actually,
there's,
5, there was a typo on
those
the
are the
thing.
5.
That's a typo.
That's okay, thank you. Yep.
So we're done, right?
Yep.
All right,
We did.
so is there a motion to approve the first reading of Neola Policy 1213, Student Supervision and Welfare, 1220, Employment of the Superintendent, 1240, Evaluation of the Superintendent, 1400.01, Superintendent Job Description, and 1422, Non-Discrimination and Equal Employment Opportunity?
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is there a second? Thank you, Allison. Discussion?
Thank you for
Questions or
making those
comments?
updates.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
I might ask, are you guys going to stay for the whole night? Are you gonna-
They're on the edge of their seats.
They
Are you
want
kidding
to.
me? It's exciting.
It's pretty,
It's
if you,
good.
if you really want fun, you come to the first Monday of the month.
So good. Good collaboration. All right, Mike, Finance and Facilities.
Okay, so we had 3 items on our agenda, and of which 2 are being addressed tonight, so I won't go into great detail. Dave talked, we went through a facility project update. At the time, that was 3 weeks ago, a lot has happened since then, so for me to give an update happened then. Dave just went through kind of the list of things, and so that hit it well. We invite everybody to come and join us on November 4th at the Transportation Center at the high school to see some of the neat things that have happened. The next thing was the budget update, and I know Lynette's gonna, at that time, we were looking at what the budget might look like, of which we're gonna be hearing from Lynette later tonight, so I won't go into great detail because we have the Lynette giving that presentation later. The last thing we talked about was student enrollment. Every year, the 3rd Friday of September, we count heads in our seats at the school. So we have a 3rd Friday count that's done in September, again in January. So we had our third Friday count in September. We ended with, let's see, we had a revised number. So total head count this year is 3,380 students. We also have what's called full-time equivalents of 3,279. Our pre-K and our 4K students are not counted as a full-time student. So while we have 3,380 students as a head count, our full-time equivalent, pre-Ks are considered a factor of half, and 4K is 0.6 of the students. So that number is 3,279. So.
And that factors in the open enrollments in and out
Right.
as well.
Yeah, we did talk a little bit about open enrollment. So the good news is we have a record-breaking most ever open enrollment ins of 220 students. The downside is we have also a record number of students out of 206. So for us, we have about 15 more students coming into the district that open enroll in versus what open enroll out. So we kind of reviewed where those students are coming in from and also where they're going out to. So was discussed. So
Yes.
anybody want to?
Any questions for Mike?
Okay.
All right, thank you, everybody. Alan, I'll turn to you for education program.
Okay. The Education Program Committee met on Monday, October 13th, and it was a really good discussion. We had 4 new high school course proposals in front of us, and one of the things about high school proposals is we don't necessarily get to see the syllabi, but the faculty members do get to come in front of us and talk to us about the new courses. The board has to approve these additional courses. Our conversation around all 4 of these courses, part of it was, enrollment is not going up at the high school, so if we add courses, eventually we're gonna have to sunset some courses, and that process will probably be happening going forward. We didn't approve eliminating any courses, but that's something the high school will be monitoring and probably making some changes. The 4 courses that were, that are in front of us tonight, it's possible there could be some minor name changes to these. That's something the board doesn't act on. We don't approve names, but anyway, so the names that eventually appear in the catalog might be slightly different, but basically we're dealing with the courses overall. We did have some conversation about what's involved in these courses and the nature of these courses and why these new courses and that, and very, very productive conversation. I think we were all very impressed with 4 faculty members who were in front of us, had good answers, had good responses for us. We appreciate their creativity, their innovation, and their enthusiasm that go behind these new course proposals. So it was great to have that conversation. And again, this notion of making room in the curriculum and making sure that each of these courses continues to have the academic rigor, basically the reading, writing, quantitative reasoning, critical thinking skills that we assume are going to be in all of our courses generally. I think in talking to Stacy, what we'll do is we'll take all 4 of these courses together. The 4 courses are, so I will move approval of the course proposal AP World History Modern, which is basically the 13th century history to the present. Approve the development of a new interdisciplinary course called Humanities. Approval of the development of a new activities course called Walking for Wellness. And approval of a new elective in physical education, which right now is, the name of it is Living Your Best Life, Readings and Reflection on Improving Your Health and Happiness. Not sure if that'll fit well on a transcript, but we'll see where that title goes. But we liked all of these, and it brought out some really good conversation about where we are with enrollment in the high school and curriculum, and had a good chance to get to know these teachers better. So I'll move that.
I will second that.
Thank you, Monica. It was also good for us to hear that these are in response to student need and some perceived gaps in the curricular offerings that we already have. So that was helpful for the committee.
I have a question about that
Yes.
course, about one of the courses. So Living Your Best Life, Reading and Reflections, that course. What does that course entail in terms of for the students? In terms of what's the offering for students? Is the title is obviously it's a mouthful, but I just want to know what that course in specific is giving the students.
The difference between that and the other course will be a new activity course, so which are required. This will be an elective.
Okay. I think it's, Colleen mentioned, Ms. Soa mentioned that it's an extension of health. So health is your required course.
In 9th grade.
In 9th grade, most often taken in 9th grade. And this is an extension of some of the standards associated with health that maybe we can't cover in the one semester that's associated with it. So it's maybe digging into some of those elements for a student who is in, I think it'll be available for 10th through 12th grade, but really targeting that 11th and 12th grade student.
If I remember correctly, also it had a focus on mental well-being and sort of looking at some of the science and studies around managing emotions and mental health, if I remember correctly.
She was making the point that typically they take it in 9th grade, and there's an awful lot of maturity that happens from 9th grade until you get to be a junior, and so that she's anxious to be able to help support students as they're growing and learning.
That makes a lot more sense.
Great question. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
And then there was one more thing. We had a report on where we are with our local plan with English language learners. And really good discussion about that and just where we are with our language learners in the district. So
Yeah. It was really amazing. I thought that 85 kids, was it? 85 students?
Yeah.
English is not their first language.
And the variety of languages.
And the variety of languages was incredible.
And it was a very well-done presentation.
Yeah, it
It
really
helped us to
was.
learn a lot and gain insight. All right, the Personnel Committee met on October 13th, and while there is no action to recommend to the board, it was a full meeting. We heard a class size analysis, and so what that does is it takes every course and class in the district and compares it to our class size guidelines so that we're able to see the courses that are within our target range, perhaps a little bit lower or perhaps a little bit higher. And we understand that when they are not precisely in keeping with our class size guidelines, it's due to scheduling and providing opportunities for kids, for students. We also heard a report on certified and support staffing, employee retention. So we've been able to look at some data over time to be able to see the trends, and that was helpful. And we discussed hiring practices, especially related to vetting and how it is that we vet potential employees for the district. Nate, is there something else that you should highlight?
I just did want to mention that staff retention in the district is really high. I think it's something that's important for the public to know that our certified staff retention rate is right around 93%, which is significantly higher than the state average. So River Falls tends to be a place that teachers come to and want to stay. And I should also point out that there's a sense out there, a narrative that teachers leave to go across the river into Minnesota, and actually the data suggests that more leave Minnesota to come here than leave here to go there. So a couple of important points for prospective teachers maybe who are thinking about River Falls as a place to work.
It's also an example of how it's always good to have data to match or to support your assumptions.
But it's been a goal of us to be a place that can attract and keep good teachers. And it was important for us to hear that data, but also a reminder to us not to take that for granted.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, now we are going to turn to an annual responsibility that we have as a school board to approve the 2025-26, well, we do that annually, but this time we're only doing that year, for the original budget and the tax levy. And so to give us some background, Lynette will give us some information, and then we will take actions.
Thanks, Stacy. So we did have our budget hearing as part of our annual meeting back in September, where we walked through the budget somewhat in depth, each of our funds. So really what we want to talk about is what has happened now since that budget hearing that may have changed some of the budget numbers and the levy. So since then, we have continued to update our salaries and benefits. So staff were still selecting some of their benefit packages, and we were still working to update all of those and make sure that we have a really comprehensive document to work from when we're talking about our salaries and benefits. That's almost 80% of our budget, so it's really important that we get that right. So we were continuing to update those things. The other things that came in were those final numbers that we're waiting for. So our property values did come in. We talked a little bit about that at our finance and facilities meeting. Our property values, our average across our municipalities increased by 7.39%, and the state average this year was 8%. So probably for the first time in several years, River Falls School District was just slightly below state average. The estimated, it's estimated that 3% of that is actually net new construction. And that's almost double what the state average of net new construction is. So no surprise, right? We've all seen the builds and the construction going on in our community. The other really big driver of our budget that came, and that piece that came in, was our student enrollment. And so Mike touched on that a little bit. And we did see a decline in our enrollment. And it was somewhat expected, not to the extent that where the numbers came in. So as Mike mentioned, our head count decreased by 61. And then our total FTE went down from last year by 80. And so what that does is that FTE is used as part of a 3-year rolling average. So it doesn't take our entire average down the first year, but what it did do is take it down by 35, and what it provides for us in our revenue limit is an exemption to sort of ride that through the first year. And we are getting a revenue limit exemption of over $400,000 to sort of get us, give us an opportunity to now prepare for that next year, or that decline.
in the last 10 years, there's only been one other time River Falls has seen that declining enrollment exemption, and it was for $10,000 back in 22-23. So this is a pretty significant shift for a declining enrollment exemption. We also got voucher student numbers in. And so last year, River Falls saw, for the first year, private school voucher students of a total of 3, and this year we have 4. So there's been an addition for private school vouchers. The interesting fact is there are no private school voucher schools in St. Croix County, Pierce County. So these students are going to a private school, voucher school somewhere else, not in our community.
Are there any online voucher schools?
There certainly could be, yes. And so the information we don't receive is where those students are going. So all we get is there are 4 K through 8 students that qualify for vouchers that live in our community, but we don't know where they're attending. So that gives us a revenue limit exemption of $43,506. Now, the way that works is it's actually, at the end of the year, it will be a deduction from our state aid. And then what our revenue limit worksheet allows is for us to, it becomes an exemption.
Basically shifts, that revenue then is all coming out of real estate taxes.
Correct.
It allows us to tax more locally.
Yes, it does, yep. So then the final piece that came October 15th was our state equalization aid. And it's important, we've discussed this before, but I think it's important to say it again. With the passage of the 25-27 state budget, there was no new money put into the pot of state equalization aid. There were other pieces of aid, other aids, but not the pot of state equalization aid. And so there's the main factors of how that aid gets distributed among school districts across the state is your spending and your property values. And so as those change, like some people might think, well, if it's the same pot of money, same dollar amount, then we should get the same dollars in aid, the next year. And that seems logical, but what happens is there's shifts in spending for each district, and then there's shifts in property value. And so that's what makes the shift around in this big pot of aid. And so districts like Madison and Milwaukee, if there are shifts in their aid, it's going to impact the rest of the schools, the rest of the districts in the state. So with that said, 71% of the districts in the state of Wisconsin saw a decrease in aid. That shift and increases went to 29% of districts, and the rest saw a decrease, and that includes River Falls. So we did see a decrease in state aid. Now, how does that impact our budget? It doesn't. It shifts that to property taxes. So, because we still have the same revenue limit, it's just that shift that's happening underneath that revenue limit. So with that said, if we shift over to the actual budget document that's being proposed for your approval tonight, the areas where that has changed, and first I should say that this is in the format that DPI provides. So we use the worksheet for budget adoption that DPI provides. So the shifts that you're going to see are really in Fund 10 and Fund 27. And under the revenue, you're going to see the shift in the taxes, the local taxes, so the 210 line item. And then, of course, open enrollment, our revenue for open enrollment, because those numbers have come in now, in and out. So,
And
those
open
were some of the
enrollment is
updates.
listed under.
So that's under the 340.
340, payments for
The revenue.
services.
Yep, the revenue of 340. And then down in the state aid, the 620, so that has shifted now that we got the certified amount. We made a couple tweaks to some of our grants, our title grants, just as final numbers for those came in. And then when we get to expenditures, of course, those are really just have to do with us tweaking those salaries and benefits in Fund 10 and 27.
So is it fair to say that in the school district of River Falls, we're spending about, what, 40, 50 million here? Almost 50 million?
Under Fund 10, yes, our
Yeah.
general operating.
General operating, we're spending about 50 million. And about half of that is coming from real estate taxes, or 20 million of the 50?
Yeah, it's not quite half, because we have other sources of revenue besides taxes and state aid, but those are big, they're two
State
big
aid is
pieces.
funding about 50%?
That is correct.
About 50%.
It's in the ballpark.
And a good goal would be 2/3 funding. I mean, the Constitution, state constitution says that the local district must fund at least 1/3. And the state has tried to achieve in the past 2/3 funding. And that has slipped and slipped and slipped and slipped.
Yeah, and we do receive aid outside of the revenue limit. There's a chunk of per pupil aid that's outside of that. I don't remember what number that is. That's in the 690, the other revenue. So there's
Okay.
2.8 million of state aid that's outside of that revenue limit.
690?
690. It's under
other revenue.
Under state sources. So there were no other updates other than in Fund 10 and 27. There weren't any updates since the budget hearing and annual meeting. So we would ask for approval of the budget as presented tonight.
I'll make a motion to adopt the 25-26 original budget as presented.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Allison. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
Okay, then we move on to the tax levy. So in order to support the budget that was just passed, now what we are asking for is approval of the levy that has been updated. And again, the only updates to that has been for the general fund 10 levy. Levies for the other funds, for debt service, which is 39, and our community ed fund, which is 80, and then those sneaky little chargebacks of levy that's, just shy of $2,000. Our total levy that we would like approval on is $27,232,242.
Is there a motion, please?
I'd make a motion to adopt the 25-26 tax levy as presented.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you, Allison. Questions or comments?
I just asked the mill rate, 6.89. How did that compare to what we had anticipated?
At the annual meeting, it was 6.87.
Okay, so close.
And again, that's that shift in what we had for a state aid estimate versus tax levy. And when that shifted, and that goes to tax levy, it's going to increase that.
So it went up a little bit?
Yes, slightly.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. One of the things that we need to do is appoint a deputy clerk in order to help with the spring election. So I will make a motion to appoint Amanda Taylor as the deputy election clerk for the 2026 school board election.
I'll start.
Ooh, beat me to it.
All right, Ellen. Any questions or comments on that, other than to say thank you, Amanda? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. All right, we do have a slight adjustment to our school board policy 830, the rule, which would be the use of district facilities, grounds, and equipment. This is a first reading of the policy. And if you notice, the only shift is to add rental fees for our two new spaces, the turf room and the wrestling room. Is there anything else that we should add to that, Lynette? I think that about covers it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would just say, we worked with David Crail on setting these rates.
Yep. And it's in keeping with the ways in which we set the other.
And this policy
fees.
we just adopted recently, so there were really no other changes necessary, just to add those.
I agree.
I can't remember, is there the opportunity in, is there the opportunity in this policy to waive the fees if we decide to do, let's say the space is being used for a charitable cause.
So they would
Did
fall
that-
under a different priority, so we have those different priority lists.
Okay.
And yes, there is.
No charge,
Certainly
so
some
they would fall
discretion
into, okay,
allowed.
got it.
Where does that money go in that?
Where does the money go? It goes into our general fund.
Because we have
Offsets the
expenses
expenses for personnel.
related to the bathrooms, cleaning the
Correct.
spaces.
Custodial salaries, pay.
Is there a motion, please, to approve the first reading of revised school board policy 830, the rule, use of school district facilities, grounds, and equipment?
So moved.
Thank you,
Seconded.
Lindsay. Thank you, Monica. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. All right, we have the second reading of the revision to School Board Policy 870, the rule for public complaint procedures. We have gone through this last time when we passed the first reading. There is one slight adjustment, which is really just a typo that Dave is going to point out.
Yep, so under the formal complaint process, number 1, A through D, the paragraph after that, exceptions in this sequence may occur when an administrator or supervisor within the chain, we feel like it should say chain of command. That makes more sense there. It's referring back to A through D, so we just wanted to get that typo clarified. So we'll add that, but I don't think it's necessary to bring it back.
Is there a motion to approve the second reading of revised School Board Policy 870 rule, public complaint procedures? So moved. Thank you, Monica. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Bo.
Wait, Bo?
Great, Bo.
I finally got in front of you guys. You all go early and I can't get in.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Do we have any proposed or suggested items for future agendas? All right, then we are going to schedule the upcoming meetings. The Policy Ad Hoc Committee will meet Monday, November 3rd at 6 o'clock. Educational Program Committee will meet Monday, November 10th at 6 o'clock. Facilities and Finance Committee will meet Monday, November 10th at 7 or immediately following Educational Program. The Personnel Committee will meet Monday, November 10th at 8 o'clock or immediately following Finance and Facilities. There will be a joint school board and common council meeting, City Council, on Tuesday, November 11th at 5 o'clock at City Hall. The next regular board meeting will be Monday, November 17th at 6 o'clock. And everybody, please remember that we have our open house meeting a week from tomorrow. All of those meetings will be held here in the district office. And at this point, I need to read this. A motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 1985-1C, which permits convening into closed session for the purpose of considering the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, to discuss and take potential action regarding a parent's communication to the school board regarding a teacher and also regarding the superintendent. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Allison. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Monica. I'll need a roll call. Allison?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Bo?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I'm saying yes.
Yes.
Ellen? All right, everyone, thank you for being with us. We are now going
Thank
to
you.
move into closed session.